I messed up. I did the wrong thing. Dragon's lurking already. Man, that was quick. Life is Yours is probably making fun of me for just pasting something wrong. Yep, he is. Okay. Everything checks out. Hi, it's me, Scott. This is the third official stream for my residency at the Children's Museum of Pittsburgh as technology in residence, working in museum lab. I don't know if I put any of those words in the right order, but Children's Museum of Pittsburgh, museum lab, technologist in residence. I think those are the things I meant to say, regardless of whatever I said. So I have been, we've been working a few weeks on kind of thoughts and experiments and explorations and talk and on and on and on. But then yesterday, if you saw the stream yesterday, we had to sit and say okay, let's do a thing. Let's document this stuff, get everything out of my head and put it on paper so that I could present it this morning to the exhibits team at the museum. And they were, of course, lovely and super helpful. And so I think after that meeting, I have more clarity on what I want to do and how I want to do it. There's still a lot to figure out, but I think the pieces are there. So what I think I'm going to do is a couple things. One, I might just kind of run through that presentation so that you all know what I'm doing and why and how, and then talk a little bit about the feedback that I got and kind of how I responded to it and in terms of what, the new ideas it gives me and the things I want to try. And then also the just kind of some general process stuff on creative process stuff, because it's always hard. Maybe it comes more easily to other people, but it is always a battle for me to do bigger projects. It's a challenge. It's work to do these things. And I mean that work. Processing.jar. What's going on over there? Are you sending me inappropriate things? Is this a link? Wait, Life is Yours is already distracting me. It's not a link. Okay, so let's just start. Well, okay, first of all, I think I fixed everything I broke yesterday. Yesterday was pretty impressive that everything broke. The wallpaper thing broke. My ability to open Unity broke. That all seemed to be related to me breaking my Windows activation, and I couldn't reactivate it, and that was broken. And Apple broke the device motion event on iOS 13.4.1. It was just everything was broken. I couldn't do anything. Wait, are you pasting the wrong thing on purpose just to make fun of me for mispasting? Okay, so first thing we got to do is pick some proper wallpaper. Actually, I kind of like that one. So as I broke everything. Oh, the motion device. So as of my phone updated in the middle of the night yesterday, or night before last, and updated to 13.4.1, and fully broke the device orientation works. Device motion was just broken. And there's bugs filed for Safari, but it's been broken for a while and it took a while. Yeah, it is a little insane, but I wonder how many people actually use that. Why would they touch it? I think they broke it in the process of something else. They've been touching it over the last few major iOS releases because they've been locking things down. Because on some devices, like on an Android device right now, I don't think you could go to a web page and that web page, while open, could track your physical movement. Which is that's pretty weird, right? That somebody somewhere could just know how you're moving your body in your own private home if you allow it to. Android, I don't think you have to allow it, right? You didn't have to give it permission. Did you have to give it permission? Wait, you had to give it permission? I thought it worked without the request permission on yours. Maybe it just works differently. Chrome does it. I see. So as soon as you access the API, Chrome does it. Well, Safari doesn't do that. And Chrome on iOS doesn't do that because it uses WebKit underneath. You have to explicitly request permission. Anyway, they locked that down in iOS 12. I'm not sure when Chrome locked it down because I'm pretty sure there was a point where you could just get it. Because when I was doing WebVR stuff a few years ago, you could just get the motion stuff. But that's been some years. So anyway, yeah, then they changed the way that stuff worked in iOS 13, and then they seemingly have broken this thing, which is annoying. But you know what? I took it as a sign that that route was not the right route. That I'm the at-home multi-user part of this, I'm scaling back on. There's pieces of that I want to use for other projects, but for what this museum project is, I think I'm not going to use that. But we'll talk about that when we get into this, after we pick beautiful wallpaper. There's like a lot of people, I feel like I've seen a lot of pictures at this location. Apple isn't a browser-focused company. To some extent, that's true. I think. I mean, they're much more focused on what goes on in apps, for sure. So I generally would agree with that. However, in terms of Apple being a very privacy-focused company, they're focused on strong browser privacy, and all of their restrictions around these APIs are like aggressive privacy. Wait, did Firefox switch to Chromium? Firefox isn't Chromium, is it? Is that true? When did that happen? I know that Edge switched to Chromium. Well, wait, WebKit is Apple. That's so first of all, I'm pretty sure Firefox has their own engine. So just to go through the history of this, Apple created WebKit. Gecko, which was developed by Mozilla, is what is in Firefox. And I believe that's still true. I think Gecko is still in use, right? I might be wrong about that, but I believe that Gecko is still what's in use. So yeah, there was, the family tree is getting a little weird because you had like, gosh, what is even the lineage? You had like the original browsers, like Netscape Navigator and Spyglass. Was that one of the really early ones? Anyway, everybody had their own rendering engines. For a while, Internet Explorer, which ruined the internet for a long time, also ran on Mac. But then Microsoft stopped working on it, so Apple was kind of put into a position where they had to make a browser. So they created Safari, and they created WebKit. I know you've distracted me, but I'm pretty sure WebKit was created by Apple. Right? Yes. So there was a time that Google used WebKit. So the early versions of Chrome, I believe... Yeah, actually, you want to go even further back, WebKit was KDE HTML that came from like Linux land. So I don't know. I'd be interested to see like a chart of the full family tree of this, because KHTML layout image from KDE from X11 land moved over. Yeah. Okay, I don't know the full lineage off the top of my head. However, I'm almost certain that Chrome was initially based on WebKit. Then they switched to their own browser engine, which is Blink, right? Or is that just their JavaScript engine? It's so confusing now. Yeah. Okay, comparison of browser engines. Right, Gecko is still Firefox. Edge was what Microsoft used after Internet Explorer land, but they use Blink now. Blink is Google's, but Google originally used WebKit. So way back in the dark days, there was KHTML, and that somehow funneled into WebKit, and then Google used WebKit until they switched to Blink, and then now weirdly Mozilla Edge also uses Blink. It's like this weird circular thing that happened. I don't even know anything about. I don't know about Servo. Who's a Servo? Oh, that's also Mozilla. Yeah. But the underpinning, I don't think that Blink is a replacement. I think Blink is a fork. But I might be wrong about that. Yeah, it's a fork. So at the core of Blink, the core of what's in Chrome and in Edge is still Apple code. I mean, it's still... and then the thing that makes this whole thing even more complicated is that on iOS, all of the browsers are WebKit. So the iOS version of Chrome is still built on Apple's WebKit, whereas the Android version of Chrome is built on Blink, which is the Google fork of that. It's confusing. Also, the Blink JavaScript engine is also what is in Node, I think. Right? I don't know. I want to see like browser engine family tree. You've already distracted me massively from what we're supposed to be talking about. Oh man, Camino. I forgot about some of these. Okay, but that's not useful. Also not useful. Okay, we'll look into this some other day. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, summary of all that is browsers are a pain, and I don't like developing for the web. And I am like getting continually turned off by the idea of this becoming a primarily web-based project, which is the easiest way. You know, people have phones in their pocket, and it's easy to reach people that way. But the browsers are so inconsistent, and the hardware is inconsistent, and there's so many things that this hardware can do that you can't do in the web browser, which is just kind of dumb. Like, same for Android. Like, WebKit and ARKit and ARCore, the augmented reality platforms from Apple and from Google don't really work in the browser. You've got to make dedicated apps for them. So, and then the other thing is Unity. This is beautiful. Let's do this one. Unity WebGL does not run in, or sorry, Unity, we got WebGL running, but compute shaders don't run there. And I'm pretty sure I want to use some compute shaders. So anyway, let's look at some stuff. I hope this is the right thing. Oh, also the CSS in Visual Studio Code wasn't working yesterday. Like everything was just broken. I don't understand it, but I fixed that too. So there were like 9 things that were broken yesterday. And I think we're good. I think we're okay. Everything seems okay? It's okay. Okay. So this was my check-in that I presented this morning. So let's just bump through this real fast because we did most of this on the stream yesterday. So the theme, one of the themes I'm really interested in are like isolated interconnectedness. And that's like a weird contradiction, but it's where you look at a system and it seems like things are isolated, but in reality, they're really deeply interconnected. So like examples of that would be like a solar system where it's like, oh, well, you have the sun over here and you have the earth over here. They're millions, thousands of miles apart. Oh, millions. Yeah, certainly they're thousands of miles apart. I was about to say light years, but they're actually 8 light minutes apart. So that's not very useful. So thousands and thousands and thousands of kilometers apart, let's say. But they're deeply linked in the way that, you know, gravity is keeping the Earth where it is, and you have orbital mechanics happening, and the Earth is going around the sun, and the sun is orbiting through the galaxy, like galactic central point. And it's just interesting, like the forces that hold that together are invisible. The same thing at kind of the atomic level. This is a not very scientific explanation, I apologize, but I hope you get the point. The atomic level, you have like, or at the molecular level, you have these constituent parts, and somehow they're kind of held together by interesting forces and bonds. So I'm just interested in that. You even see it with stuff like, you know, like some of those large fungal colonies where it looks like, oh, on the surface it looks like there's a bunch of little separate mushrooms, but underneath this is actually an enormously huge organism that spans hundreds of miles. So I'm just interested in that. I'm also interested, I continue to be interested, even though I've mainly done this in audio, like sound experiments, is collaboration between a user and a generative system. So I build a system and I build rules and then I present it to a user, and they, rather than just making something, you know, our analogy was like, I could tell a computer to draw a picture, write some code to do it, write some generative code, like go make a beautiful picture. Or I could make a tool like Photoshop that would let a user go make whatever they wanted. I'm interested in something in between where it's kind of generative, but it's kind of directed, where the person using the system and the system, the rules of the system kind of come together to say what the result is in a way that wouldn't really happen if it was just one or the other. I'm also super interested in this, is artwork in which every user permanently changes the piece by interacting with it. Someday, I want to make an artwork that just changes based on everybody just looking at it. Just the act of looking at it will change the artwork. I'm not there. This is not it. But by interacting with this, you will change forever what the artwork is. And then I'm just interested in this physical gesture as a bridge to visual art. And that gets into some of those Kandinsky synesthetic things that I was really not remembering yesterday. You can do colors in Markdown. It's just CSS. So this is Markdown getting rendered as HTML, right? That's all that's happening when you preview Markdown. Markdown is usually, not always, but Markdown is usually just a shortcut to HTML. And so Visual Studio lets you just create a CSS file to say what's what. So all you're doing, you're not styling the Markdown, you're styling the HTML. So this is how I do presentations now, because I don't like making presentations. Yeah, it's pretty useful. So like in just in your preferences, in your user settings, if you search for Markdown, you can have an override CSS. So it can be a local file or it can be a file on the internet. Okay, you're distracting me again. So those are kind of the high level themes and goals. We're totally separate from what this looks like or what it sounds like or how it works, but these are the high level goals and themes. As we've seen on streams, I started to put together some mood reference. I think sometimes words are a good reference, just like a word cloud, but these words I've been kind of interested in. Celestial, molecular, particular, organic. And again, these are evocative of like, when you think of the stars in the sky, you can look up and be like, well, there's just random stars all over the place. But there are forces that are determining the position of those stars and how they react and how they move. And same thing at the molecular level. Same things with whatever subatomic particles you want to pick, or certainly organic or cellular systems. I started putting together the Pinterest board, which is pretty funny because, you know, we started this project deeply cube focused. Like our very initial sketches and experiences and explorations were all about cubes. But now we're just getting so sphery over here. But we started with, can these be bigger? I don't really want to zoom into the top of the page, Pinterest. That's not useful to me. Well, pretty cool. I can see smaller pictures, but not bigger pictures. It's a little bit annoying. I've got a big old display here. Okay, so, you know, we started out thinking of like, okay, what are some of these places where geometry and the organic world come together? And you think of things like Fibonacci spirals and cruciferous vegetables and seashells and things like that, where you can be like, oh, you know, the result is something very organic, or even like flocking movements of organisms, of butterflies or birds, and how they move through space. So we started, I don't like this. Oh, cool. Thinking about some of those things, like geometry coming together to make like sometimes organic things, sometimes just sort of interesting composite sculptures, sometimes very rectilinear, sometimes curves. This was our inspiration for that kind of turbulent sphere we did. So all of this, and then we kind of got into like orbital mechanics and celestial bodies and the way things work in space at a very macro level, and the cosmos and astronomy and excuse me, started touching on those areas, but very quickly. I don't know exactly how it happened. It started happening in here somewhere. Maybe this was the one that really set it off. Kind of looking at almost like an atomic model, you know, like at that atomic level again. And then somehow, we're happily going through all of our geometry and orbits and all of that fun stuff. And then suddenly things start to get more and more round. And they get more and more round. How do these animate? What I don't like is if I go here and I look at this, and then I go back to the page I was on, it scrolls me to the top of the page. That's not a good user experience. Either I want to see it big here, or I want to be able to easily come back to it. Anyway, So we got all these like cool animations that we liked. These like interesting, I don't know, they have almost like a cellular feel. Like this almost looks like a deep sea jellyfish or something deep in the water. I like these circles on the surface of something. So anyway, we started getting into these beautiful spheres, and I'm pretty into them because the spheres, like, yep, got a nice purling noise. There's not an E at the end of that word, though. It's named after Ken Perlin. And I like it because the sphere, it works at all of these levels. It works at the micro level. It works at like the atomic level. You have sort of this spherical, these subatomic particles swirling around the nucleus of the atom. Or it works at the cellular level where you have like electron microscope cell. It works at the cellular level where you have these like spherical or at least circular arrangements of whatever the contents of your cell are. It works at like the planetary level with the different layers of the planet and the mantle and the core, magma core. Are there more layers than that? Crust, mantle, outer core, inner core. Or even at the like these like old views of how the heavens worked, where you had the spheres of the heavens. I'm not exactly sure what reference to use for that. I mean, you have very like geocentric view of the world. But these spherical layers, so they work at the Earth level, they work at sort of the cosmic level, they work at the galactic level. Send you that sphere one. Which one? Here, you can just look at the whole Pinterest board. I think it's public. So I like it because I think it's like, you know, this is very, you look at this and you're like, well, what is this? Are these like particles of light, or is this a microorganism, or is this a jellyfish, or is this like some celestial event? Like there, and especially when you get into here, you look at it and you're like, it's evocative of all those things. So I have been into that. I'm into that ambiguity of like, is this huge? Is this the biggest thing that ever existed? Is this like the Big Bang? Is this the Big Bang? Or is this like a subatomic particle? So I'm into the spheres. The other thing I'm into is and I don't have as much reference for this, but the interplay of these things. Because again, we're thinking of this like isolated connectedness or this invisible interconnectedness, and how these things affect each other and are connected to each other, and what are the forces at play, and what are the rules at play for these systems, again, which is like a very molecular thing, but also a very cosmic thing. And I like that kind of that duality, or that inversion of size. Oh, that's cool. Cool animal cell. Wait, this is animal cell photograph. That's not a photograph. Is that a photograph? I mean, even, you know, when we look at, here's a lot of that same sort of geometric form and radial symmetry and all of that stuff, but this is at the cellular, molecular level. You can't find the one in that board? I'm sorry. No, let's tell you. I mean, of course, you know, yeah, it's hard not to think a bit about this also. Like the form of this particular thing is also very much in the world right now. So anyway, I could look at these things all day. And so I've been working on that. I've started an audio playlist. It's a little less refined. That was a suggestion of my friend and collaborator, David. The one where the particles come out from a point and spawned circles on the surface. Oh, it's in there, isn't it? Or maybe that one's not in there and it was just a link. Like I clicked one of these other guys. I think I clicked, I don't know, man. I clicked one of these and it took me there. Which one was it? I think maybe it was this one. I think I clicked this one And then I saw the circly one. I don't know. Just start clicking through Pinterest. Ooh, that one's good. That one's really good. Just click around on Pinterest and just say goodbye to the rest of your day. Cool. Okay, I was trying to get away from here. You brought me back in. You pulled me back in. Okay. Yeah, and I'm working on an audio playlist because that's David's suggestion was, and I've heard this before, is just like make the audio playlist for the thing you're making and just kind of live in it, listen to it all the time. So I have kind of a ambient electronic music soundtrack I've been listening to. So that's our mood and what we're going for. As far as what the person is going to do, the high level ideas are visitors are going to use their body movements to control the system. Every visitor is going to leave some kind of digital artifact that permanently changes the exhibit. These are either full body gestural movements or intricate hand finger movements, maybe both. So like this is where these are like gross motor and fine motor things to some extent. And so I was kind of vacillating on this because starting out with like the dance idea where you're moving your whole body when we're using the phone sensor, like I like that, but it's a little harder for me to envision forming that into whatever these artifacts are. I could think of ways to do it, but it hasn't quite felt right. And even the visualization of that hasn't quite felt right. So, well, we'll get into that more later. Next is this progression or this transmutation or this synesthetic relationship between movements, generative forms, and generative music. Pardon me. The idea is that, again, getting back to that Kandinsky thing that I absolutely cannot, I'm improperly remembering, but I like my memory more than the reality of what it is this idea of like, oh, you paint a painting and then you play a song and then you paint a painting inspired by the song and then you do a dance inspired by the painting. And in some way you're still dancing to the music, even though your several forms are moved. So definitely interested in that. Oh, is this the person that creates these things? Are these all is this all shader code? Or is this just somebody else that's awesome? This cool jellyfish. Is this some kind of, we got some cool live code going on over here? That's very beautiful. Yeah, these jellies. These bone chains. Beautiful. Oh, weird little organisms. What is this software? Yep, cool roly-poly simulation. Great. Okay, I'm definitely going to check this out a little more. Oh, that's a beautiful shadery stuff. Ooh, beautiful shadery stuff. Beautiful shadery stuff. Nice! This isn't really just from this code. No way. This is just from this code? Wait. Is that true? Man, I'm pretty good at like shaders in terms of like, you know, doing certain kinds of effects or surface effects. Like I'm okay at composing shaders to go on a thing, but as far as like shaders that all of the content is in the shader, like, you know, I can have some geometry and write a shader to deal with that. I just am not the best at it. I guess I could get more into it, but I need like the 3D world and the interplay of the 3D world and the geometry. Like doing every single thing in a shader is just not my jam. Maybe because I hate camera projection stuff. It's beautiful. What's the shader like for this guy? Oh, this is all. That's great. Very simple. Piece of cake. Here's the shader. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. Okay, so, yes. Movement to form to music. I want to play this interplay of things. Then I started thinking about like, what is the footprint of this thing? And this is where I started hitting a brick wall, because I've like have all this nice conceptual stuff in my head, imagining things, ideas and reference photos and whatever. And then suddenly it's like, okay, but what does it look like? And it's like, I don't know, man. So because what I don't want it to be is just a screen. I don't want it to just be like, oh, there's a screen and you walk up to it and it's just like you're at Best Buy. Welcome to Best Buy, look at the screen. So I did a couple little mock-up models just to say like, well, what if it's, what if we build it in such a way that there's 3 large screen displays, or build it in such a way that it has a little dimensionality to it and a little bit of presence, so that it's not so much just like big video wall or whatever. But I wasn't very happy with this. I can imagine interesting content to put on the screen, but at the end of the day, I just like a big screen that you just walk up to and do your dance. Like it doesn't have the presence I want. So that was definitely a sticking point. So, but what I was thinking this morning, or yesterday at least, was freestanding and on casters to be repositioned, a short throw projector or 3 or 4 large displays, the interactive sensor, which we'll talk about in a moment, will be on a stand in front of the displays. And then maybe I'd have process and technical info just to like build out the, the technologists in residence, the technology part of this. So this really I was not feeling great about this morning. So and then I was thinking about hardware, like what to use. And I've been interested in using the new Azure Connect or the Intel RealSense, really either one. Particularly after seeing some of the things that Kijiro has done with it. He's a Unity evangelist from Japan, and he's done amazing things. And I'm really interested in this. And I might get one of these cameras just because I want to do some of this stuff. But it's tough because people like mirrors. People like mirrors. So if you walked up to a mirror and you were able to dance around and explode into particles, I think that'd be a nice experience. Like I think that could be beautiful. But that has happened. Like people have seen that before. And it's getting away from a lot of those other ideas of you could still work this into the themes and ideas above about like leaving an artifact or changing something forever, but it's just so self-centered. It's so like narcissistic and it's just about you. And the interaction seems a little weird. So I don't know, maybe I will still do something with this at some point probably, but I think it's not going to be here. Another thing I was reminded of, it's been out for some years and it seemed like it was going to be a cool thing, and then it kind of disappeared a little bit, and now sort of, I think they're still doing okay, but it kind of exists in, two contexts. So it's the Leap Motion if you haven't seen one before, and it is pretty good. They came out, I want to say 2013, something like that, but it is a very small device that does, I want creation. That's right. Yeah. I think you could do beautiful things with that, with those VFX particle systems, but it didn't quite feel like what I wanted here. So the Leap Motion is a very cool piece of kit. It's only about $100, less than $100. It's very small. It's like this big. And it does a very good job for such a small device, and particularly such a small device that came out years ago. I mean, all this like motion tracking and all of that stuff is getting better now, but it's pretty impressive how well they did at that time. But you can use this little guy to pretty accurately track the bones in your hand and know what your hands are doing. You've got to be kind of close to it, like this kind of scenario, but your hands go over it, and then you have a pretty good understanding of what's going on with your hands. So as far as like that gross motor, big dancing versus kind of fine motor, this would be more fine motor. Like now I'm able to like get in there and push and pull and do interesting, weird things. So that's cool. I have not used one of these in many years. So 7 years ago after this came out, they started announcing, we're going to have this in laptops. We're going to do cool laptop stuff. But then somehow that just didn't quite happen. I think it was, in that post-Minority Report world where like the movie Minority Report ruined human-computer interaction, or ruined the conversation of human-computer interaction for a decade probably, because they saw this movie where Tom Cruise is up here swinging things around and doing stuff with his hands. And then the reality is nobody wants that. Even in the filming of the movie, Tom Cruise was like, after every scene, he's like, ugh, like my arms are killing me. Like, you don't want to work that way. This is not how you want to do your work. Maybe there's some context or some specific instances where that's the right thing to do. But like in general, so many things just didn't catch on. That's, you know, this movie came out and everybody was like, well, that's the future. This is what computers are going to be. But in reality, it's not, it has not borne out. You have Elite Motion? I have one. I got one of the very first developer kits and did a weird little robot. I made like a little puppeteered robot dance with it, but that was a long time ago. So anyway, this like gestural control of things seemed like Leap Motion was going to be like, all right, yeah, now we can do the thing. And I think it got released in one laptop, and then it was like gone, kind of. It was like no more. In recent years, they had kind of a bounce back, though. They had kind of resurgence because they started doing this, where you could mount it on the front of your VR headset, and then Iron Man, but Iron Man's also fake. But that's still, I mean, okay, we'll talk about that in a minute, because there's versions of that are becoming real, but like this, like I don't think that's really the thing. Iron Man is very beautiful, yes, and when the first Iron Man came out, it became the new thing that everybody wanted. But well, we'll look at some hardware in a minute that I think is closer to the thing people actually want. So this was cool though, because then you could mount this on front of your VR headset and in VR track your hands. But even that, I feel like is these poor people, like the Leap people, I feel like this is also suddenly becoming obsolete, because with Oculus Quest and potentially with the what is that other thing called? The Rift S, the Oculus Quest and the Rift S, their Facebook is just doing computer vision based hand tracking, and it works pretty well. It's okay. Like, you can put on your Oculus Quest and you can just see your hands and you don't need the controllers. So like, once again, the poor Leap Motion people, like, I hope they find their place in the world. They actually are making some pretty crazy cool stuff now with haptics, where they use ultrasonic bursts to send vibrations into the air so you can move your hands around but feel things, spatially feel things, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, they're getting into haptics now. I haven't experienced one of these, but it seems pretty awesome to like be able to touch things in space. The closest thing I had seen is somebody had built a setup that would kind of like blow air, really targeted air. So like they could, in VR or whatever, a ball would be flying at you and you'd go to grab it and some air would be blown and would hit your hand there. Yeah, look at that. That's pretty cool, man. So I haven't experienced this, but I'm interested in it. I hope they do well. I think they make cool stuff. It just hasn't quite caught on. So yes, I'm leaning toward, even though I haven't used one in many years, I'm leaning towards Elite Motion for this, because I think whatever interaction system I come up with aside, which is that would be a challenge to develop, just moving your hands in space gesturally, I think people can get it. I think they can do that, and they're very inexpensive. So, and then I went over some of the stuff we've been doing on stream, like our motion, our phone tracking experiment, and the animation stuff I worked on, and talked about some of the various other things I've been doing on stream. I talked about, well, like the cell phone stuff, we can do that, but then I had a concern section and said it's like there's a lot of issues, I'm not super into it. And I talked about how, you know, really in some ways the thing I'm talking about is a better VR experience, which didn't feel great to like force it onto a screen. You know, I talked about being very screen focused, and also where does it live in the space. So I presented all this information. We had some good conversations. People seemed more interested in the macro tracking. And I think that makes sense, because I think there's a lot of Kinect-based stuff, and there's been Kinect-based stuff at the museum before, and there's like big mirror kinds of things. And that stuff is fun and can be beautiful and interesting, but it's gross motor stuff that there are other examples of. And this like virtual fine motor thing is a little more unusual and a little more niche, and might be a little bit more like magical to people who haven't experienced it before. So then we talked about, well, maybe instead of big screens, it's a smaller experience, and you just go up to a small experience and you work with the thing that you want to make. And I like that idea. I like the intimacy of that, especially if you're going to be making like some kind of your own planet or your own organism or whatever the thing is that you're going to make. I like the intimacy of you creating it in kind of a small scale. But again, I do really like this interconnectedness idea and this permanent changing idea. So I still want the idea of releasing something out into the world. Like you make your thing or you do your thing and then you release it and it goes into the world. So I'm still, after talking about that, I sort of, we talked back and forth and we talked about the footprint and we talked about the interaction. And I was reminded of a device that is also pretty experimental and pretty new. I think they actually have a 1.0 version of a product now, but it's called Looking Glass. And when I was alluding before to there being like maybe like things people really want. Now, there will certainly be AR and VR will be a real part of this, of course. Like AR and VR in dealing with 3D things, that's going to be part of our future for sure. But another thing that will be part of our future, I think, hey, Ivar, I can't say it. I'm sorry. How's it going? So, in addition to those things, I think good volumetric displays will also have a role in our future. And right now, maybe there's some high-end industrial ones or whatever, but of the things that I know of in this world that we inhabit that are good and interesting, the Looking Glass factory displays are pretty amazing. So, and the way that they work is pretty astounding. This video is playing poorly. If this video wasn't playing so poorly, you might be more impressed. So the way this works is that it's all optics and it's really smart. So, if you go to the movie and you see a 3D movie, the way it works is there's two images rendered, right? So there's two images and your glasses are polarized in some way. So you see one image at a time. And when you have two images, you can have a stereo impression of the world. So we've had that all the way back to since like, Life is Yours. Life is Yours has been coming to my channel almost as long as it has existed. Life is Yours is he's a founder. He's one of the founders. He's a VIP, and whatever this other thing means. A VIP and a 4-month subscriber, according to these things. So yeah, those work from optics, right? Like even just red, blue, this kind of like old school, what's it called? Anaglyph? One eye sees one thing, the other eye sees the other thing. That's awesome. But there's still only two images there. You can't like walk around and look at something because there's only two images. There's also lenticular images where it's sort of like, well, this one has two, but when you stand on one side of it, I really need like a GIF to show this. Good lenticular. So this has multiple images based on the angle that you look at it. You've seen these kind of images before. You see something different, and they're often done, they're like little ridges. And sometimes they have two angles that you can look at them, and sometimes they have more, but it's a pretty old technology. Yeah, so you can make, so that kind of thing is a physical thing where you're just seeing. Oh, are you from Norway also? That's good. I'm glad we've really made these streams Norway focused, especially with our beautiful Norwegian wallpaper we've been picking. Awesome. Okay, I should just move to Norway. So this like lenticular approach has been around a long time. Like I think even when I was a kid, you could get these like lenticular prints that you look at on different angles, see different things. So, but that's also this idea is like, okay, if you look at it at one angle, yeah, like here's some lenticular film that just has like different angles. You'll see different surfaces based on different angles. Looking Glass is kind of works that way, but in a crazier way, where instead of just two distinct images that you're showing, there's 45. So one thing I will say about this is even when you have the tiny one, it is a beastly render because you're rendering, say when you render something in stereo or when you render for VR, you have to render everything twice, right? And it's like, oh man, I got to render this twice. When you render for this device, you have to render 45 different times, basically. And then there's a giant, so they have this screen and it's showing this crazy image that has 45 different versions, different angles of the thing you're looking at. And they have this incredible piece of optics, this big old slab of, I don't know what it's made of, glass or plastic or whatever, that sits on the front of it. And it, at a very tiny level, it's almost like a crazy fiber optic thing, but I guess it's not really fiber. Like each of the pixels, the angle that you see them, the individual pixels are sort of channeled and routed to different viewing angles. So as you look at different angles, you're seeing different parts of the screen that are very carefully controlled. So this thing is amazing. And they have this little tiny one that's $600 and it's very small. It's like 8 inches or something like that. It's very little. And the resolution on it isn't super great because even if it's a high-end screen, which I don't even know what the density is, but even if it's a dense screen, all of those pixels are divided up by 45. So you get a relatively low working resolution, which is okay. It's just, you have to understand that that's kind of a limitation of the software or of the hardware. They also have this 15.6 version, which is more like a laptop size, which is a more comfortable size to use, I would say. You still have that density problem, and also this one costs $3,000. So I don't know. We're going to talk to them and see if, well, we just have to see. We just have to see what they say. There's also like shipping lead times on those that are kind of a concern. Those take 4 weeks, 6 weeks for the Pro. The Pro just is touch-based, and then it comes with this little touch panel. But the extra size would be really nice. So you've got these weird things. I wish there were better pictures that really showed because they're kind of crazy. They're like these big old slabs. They really stick out. You've got these big slabs of whatever the material is. Plastic, glass, some strange polycarbonate or something. I don't know. But they're pretty freaking cool. And then also they have this 8K version that is obviously tremendously expensive because they don't show the price online. And if somebody shows you the price for some things and not other things, then you know it is stupidly expensive. But it's because it's 8K that once you divide that up by 45, you still have a lot of pixels. You still have plenty of pixels to show a nice image. So it's not as dense as an 8K image would be. It's like 8K divided by 45, I guess. But it's worth looking at some of the stuff that's been done with these because I think they're pretty incredible. And like you can shoot with this is an Azure Connect, so you can shoot on Connect and then see that video with depth with a single camera. I did there is a Linus Tech video. I have a hard time with those videos because Linus's voice, I just have a hard time with, personally. I know he's tremendously popular, but not my favorite voice. Yeah, I'm curious about the thing. Also, the depth of this thing, 20, 30 feet, up to 12 people can stand around it and see. It's pretty amazing. So I want one of these, I think. My budget does not allow me to have this. My budget allows me to have this. And that's okay. I think there's something kind of cool about that because there's something like, I don't know, I think about going to like a natural history museum or something and looking at little specimens or something like that. I think there's something kind of cool about that. So I want it to look maybe kind of like a little specimen display at an old museum, but actually be volumetric and in 3D. Now, one of the bigger downsides is trust kids with it. Well, that is a challenge. I think that I can mount it beneath a surface and you just look down into it. So like, we don't have to expose any of this. I don't think you gain much by, I'll have to experiment, but I believe this thing can almost be mounted flush. And yes, we would probably want to put some acrylic over it so that it is not destroyed. Because one problem with screens in a museum right now is kids think every screen is a touch screen. And they will run up to a $3,000 television and just slap their hands on it as hard as they can, because that's just, they expect that to be the case. So yeah, I'm into these things. David has played with these before. I've never had a chance to, so I'm pretty excited about it. So now, one of the things that I feel like they hide here, and maybe that's because these are marketing things, but like, I don't know. The resolution on these is not that great. Like, especially the 8.9 inch one. Because again, which is understandable, like you are dividing your kind of available resolution, you're dividing it by 45. So like, it's understandable that you don't have a ton of resolution.
Mobile popped over this.
Shh, don't talk. Oh yeah, so they looked at it on tested. But it's just, it's a little bit low fidelity. Do they actually get close on any of these? And I think a lot of that can come down. I mean, you can kind of see it here. Like, it's kind of pixelated. It's kind of a pixelated image. And that's what it is. And so authoring the content, I had to take that into consideration. Also, authoring the content, whatever is on here, I have to render 45 times, which is pretty insane. So optimization is going to be pretty key, especially because I think I want to try to run 3 of these from one computer, and that's going to be a challenge for sure. Like, maybe I might just have to get a 2080. Okay, so I'm into this thing, and what I'm kind of imagining is using the Leap, and actually they'll sell you a Leap. For some reason they charge $10 extra. I don't understand why. It seems like you should get it at a discount. But I'm thinking of some sort of experience. You approach the experience. You have that looking glass display and you have a Leap motion under it, and you're going to do whatever you're going to do with your hands to create your thing, your whatever it is, particle, your star system, your organism. I don't even know what they are at this point. You're just going to make a thing, and you are then going to release that thing into its environment, whatever we call it, whether into the cosmos, into the primordial soup, whatever that is going to be. And so I did a quick sketch after the meeting. It's very rough, but just in like kind of thinking of what that could look like. How can I show this? Download it. It's you. Great. So okay, well, I don't show my conversations with people though. How come when I downloaded the image, good grief, did I show anything that's supposed to be secret? Why did you do that? Okay, I don't think I showed anything too terrible. What's our time code so I can remember? Okay, like 54 minutes in, just in case there's something on that. Okay, so any secret industry secrets? Okay, this guy. So it's a very simple drawing, but just kind of imagining like, oh, maybe I have like this thing and it's almost like there's a pool or whatever it is. Like you're looking down in a planetarium kind of scenario or whatever it is. But you walk up to these 3 stations, and maybe they're at different heights to accommodate different visitor heights or accessibility concerns. And you can do your thing on that screen. And that's where you make your organism. And then when you're ready and you're done, you release your organism out into this area, which is probably going to be top-down projection. So we'll project down here. Lighting's going to be a concern. We've got a lot of things to figure out, frankly. There's definitely some things to figure out for sure. But yeah, general idea is some kind of projection map thing that'll just project on this hexagon. This is the idea. This has that, has the looking glass display kind of sticking up above, but it'd probably be safer to have it recessed in like a little kiosk sort of thing. So I'm pretty into this. One, I think when you see it, I think I can like construct it in such a way that it's like an interesting, weird object that is some combination of like something you'd see at a planetarium or a natural history museum or whatever. Like, and the floor, the base of the Hayden Planetarium, there's like you can kind of walk through and see all of these things. The Rose Center for Earth Space. For Earth and Science. It's a cool building. But like down here, when you walk around in this space, it's not the greatest picture. But almost that sense of like, oh, this is a weird, like, or here, where you gather around this. Actually, this one might be a good example. This has like weird organisms in it, but something like you're at a, I think the triptych idea is tossed. I think it changed into a radial idea. I think we are now radial instead of triptych. I think. I don't know. All of this stuff could change, but I think I like that volume more than just something flat. I will probably still use the triptych idea for something else, but I think for this, I think this wants to be something that you can approach from all sides, and I feel like something that people can gather around and look into. So almost like they're looking down into a pool or looking into like some kind of planetary display, kind of like gathering around and looking at this thing, even though I don't think there's actually anything interesting in the middle of that. But it definitely would not be accurate science in any way. Although, so there's something kind of cool about these. As you walk through this space, it's this wall. There's kind of these walls that have sort of these little windows with little pieces of info in them. And that's why I'm feeling like even the small 8.9 inch looking glass is going to work, because there's something to me that's like this interesting sciencey thing. This will just be sort of like very nebulous, weird art, fake science. And maybe it'll be a dome at the bottom. I don't know. That's hard. I guess I could try project on a sphere or project on that if I could find some substrate that was already that radius. Anyway, so I think that's where this is going. And I like it because I think it's touching these things well. I think it's doing these things. I think it is, that's true. It could look huge for the kiddos. Yeah. Well, this Museum Lab is a slightly older audience, so more like 12, 13, 14, but yes. You'll have your face up pretty close to it, I think. Which at that point, the resolution doesn't hold up super well. I don't know. We're trying to order one immediately so I can get it soon. Is it glass? I couldn't tell if it was glass or some other material. I probably said on one of the pages we were looking at, and I just missed it. So I think this does this stuff. And I think we can make these things or a version of these things. This is a big challenge though, because I mean, I feel like, oh yeah, we can do beautiful stuff with the Unity visual effects graph. We can make like really interesting volumes and shapes, but suddenly we're dealing with a restricted resolution. So like our fine lines and fine particle effects just might not work very well on that display. And because we have to, whatever we render, we have to render 45 times. There's just like some computational limits to what we can reasonably do and run at a reasonable frame rate. I'm okay with running at 30. I don't think I need to run at 60. So 30 FPS I think will be okay. I know Life is Yours just won't be able to tolerate it. He just refuses to deal with anything below 140 hertz. 140 hertz are nothing for that guy. So after today's meeting and thinking about it, I feel like It's starting to take shape for sure. Like I can imagine this object and someone walking up to it and doing the things. But okay, so like as far as like general concept development and to give sort of an analogy, this is the, whatever you want to call it, 100-mile view. This is like, you are, oh, you poor thing. 75 hertz, how do you survive? How do you even watch a movie at the movie theater where it's only 24 hertz? How can you deal with that? So we, at this is our like 1,000-mile view, 100-mile view. We're way in the air, we're looking down, we're seeing everything. And we're like, this is the stuff we want, right? Say we're at 1,000 miles, we look down, like this is the whole scope of what we want. And then we start to get into this land, and that's like a little closer, like the specifics. But then once we get into that drawing and we're talking about specific hardware and stuff, we're starting to get into like we're just zooming in closer, right? So if that drawing that I showed you and the hardware that we're talking about, like all of that is like, okay, in my mind, I can see this thing and I can see people walking up to it and using it, and it happens. The thing that's missing is like the 1-mile view or the 100-foot view or whatever, where we've got to get close enough to, well, now wait a minute. The refresh rate doesn't have anything to do with the speed. 240 hertz. Yeah, but so like refresh rate isn't about the speed. It's not like you move your cursor in the same speed as your hand. It's moving the same speed. Like the speed is the same. You're covering the amount of space over time. It's not like there's lag. It's just that the rendering is, you can't fill in all the gaps in the middle. You mean you want like just a continuous, you want a perfect, you want, as you move your mouse, you want to see a little cursor drawn at every possible interval all the way, like some infinite. Yeah, right. I mean, 240 hertz, whatever, certainly. But in the end, it's a little crazy because it's sort of like I'm rendering 30 hertz times 45. Because I've got to render whatever I'm doing 45 times 30 per second. Whatever that is. What? Something like 1,200? More than 1,200? 1,350. So I'm almost rendering at 1,350 hertz to do the thing I want to do. And that's a challenge for complex imagery. Yeah, that's a whole lot of frames. That's a whole lot of frames. Now, that may not be strictly true. I don't know the internals of how their rendering system is, so maybe it's smarter than that. Maybe it can do some sort of like segmented rendering and it only renders the pieces of it. So I would assume there's some optimizations there. I would hope that they don't just like have a camera spin around and render the entire image 45 times. They probably really don't, now that I think about it. It's probably more like they're rendering slices or things like that. I would hope, but even just looking at the documentation and talking to people that have used it, there is definitely overhead to trying to do that. So it's probably not really as bad as 1,350 hertz, but it's still heavier than you would think for just rendering a single image. I think that's fair to say. So those are the details there's all these technical details to figure out, but I'm pretty okay with navigating those. Like I'm relatively confident in my ability to put together pieces of technology and make them work. Like I feel like a lot of my successful projects at their very core has been like, well, what if I took this piece of technology and put together with this piece of technology and this piece of technology, and they all kind of talk together. Like that I feel reasonably comfortable with. But the exactly what the interaction is to do the thing, I don't know. I don't know what that is. And unfortunately, it seems like it might be 2 weeks before I get the device. I could start with Elite Motion sooner, but just to say, the human interaction part is the part that is most nebulous to me right now. Like, okay, I put my hands up here. Do I see my hands on the screen also? And there's a sphere in the middle. Am I touching and poking the sphere? Am I grabbing and pulling things? Am I just moving my fingers and stuff is coming out of my fingers to make my sphere? I don't know. That is the part that's scary to me right now, is like, okay, I have an idea of what the look is of the whole device, and I have an idea of the tech, and I have an idea of what the, maybe some inspiration for the mood of what the content is, you know, like what's going on here. But as far as like, if I said, okay, you're gonna walk up to a screen and you're gonna wiggle your fingers and you're gonna end up with this, or you're gonna wiggle your fingers and you're gonna end up with this, like, I don't know what the, oh, look at that one. Man, people do a good job. Everybody's so talented. Good job, everybody. I just don't know. I don't know yet. Like, what if you could make this? That's probably a bit difficult computationally. Sure is pretty. Sure is beautiful. But like, I just, that's where, that's right now where what's like, what I'm a little stuck on. Because if humans didn't have to use it and I could just write something that generated spheres, that'd be one thing. You know, I just like write some software, some parametric, beautiful sphere generation software. And maybe that's the thing to do. Yeah, yes. So in fact, they will do that. Like Looking Glass will sell you a Leap Motion with a Looking Glass. So they're very much, that I'm not the first person to do that by any means. So I think that will actually work reasonably well. Now, having a bunch of them plugged into one computer, I don't know. I may not be able to do these on one computer. I was thinking about those, is it the Udo x86 boards? These? It's not this one. Whatever it is, it probably needs a real GPU. And the like most affordable thing I know of, which one are you? What are you? Isn't it these people that have the crazy one? This guy. So this has kind of like the equivalent of a, I mean, I guess it's the equivalent of a mobile, like a nice laptop GPU. So I could kind of imagine, I mean, these are kind of expensive for sure. I wouldn't want to have to do one of these per thing. I would want to try to figure out. So it may be that like, oh, the Leap Motion actually has to be hooked up to a Raspberry Pi and that's going to stream the data to the server or something. I don't know. I've never tried to use multiple Leap Motions on one computer. Multiple device support. Oh, that's good. Yeah, sufficient CPU's power, enough USB bandwidth. So yeah, like there's going to be some computational barriers here for sure. When did this happen? A couple years ago. Cloud, as far as having them communicate together, or what do you mean? I think I would, like, if I had to have, I would do it all locally, probably, even if I had to have multiple computers. Oh, yeah, I don't think so. I think the compute has to be real time and in the room and fast, I think. So I wonder how many you can actually have. But it just may be like whatever is the big fancy computer that's plugged up to the projector that's going to be running a lot of things. Maybe that one is its own computer. I would like to only have one computer plugged into all the Looking Glasses with all the leaps, but that might be That might be a lot to ask of a single machine. Some of these things are old. I don't like that. Only 2018. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. They know it's 2020? Oh, wait, is this specifically the VR headset thing, though? 'Cause I don't care about that. Response. No response. I don't like that. Why are we running a old version? It's even 2018.1. Why so old? That makes me worry. This person from April 9th recommends Unity 2018.3, so that's good. Emotion data provider. Oh, I see. Right. Yeah, I mean, this is all stuff we've got to experiment with to try to figure out how to make it work best. I kind of am into this, like, the more I think about those weird little displays, at first I was kind of disappointed thinking like, oh man, these little 8.9 inch displays are going to be so weird. But like, maybe I just lean into how weird that is and have this sort of old science museum feel. That's one of the things I love about the Natural History Museum in New York City. Is that so much of the stuff in it is so old. The American Museum of Natural History, so much of the stuff is so old that it's like the museum is an artifact itself. Like, especially some of the downstairs stuff. I want like good pictures of it. What I mean is, like, many of the exhibits are like decades old. Probably some of the stuff in that museum, like as far as exhibits, not the things that are on display, but the exhibit components themselves are like 100 years old. The gem room is so funny. It looks like it was last refurbished in the 60s or 70s. It's also gorgeous, but it is so anachronistic. It's got like weird carpet, weird lighting. Goodbye to the gym room. What? This picture definitely looks like it's from the 70s. Wait, are they getting rid of the gym room? Don't say it. Oh no. Is this happening? The Hall of Gyms is getting an overhaul? Oh man. Okay, well, that's maybe breaking what I was just saying, because it's looked like this for decades, so maybe it's actually being redone now. I love it. It's so weird and old. Like, these gyms are all on weird beige velvet. It probably needs an update, but I like how old and weird it is. I haven't been to the Natural History Museum for a few years. Like although based on what I just said, I feel like it's almost irresponsible to change it because there's so much history in that museum itself. There's some downstairs that are like around about like American redwoods and stuff. I don't even know what to call them. For some reason, none of the super old stuff is on. Comes up immediately when searching. Maybe it's not redwoods. There's some specific thing downstairs. Anyway, like, there's just weird old stuff there. And it's funny because you can read Catcher in the Rye and read about Holden Caulfield going to this museum and talking about what he sees there in what, is that the 40s, 50s? When does Catcher in the Rye take place? I misspell everything. The 40s, late 40s, early 50s, yeah. That like he talks about the museum, and many of the things he talks about are still around and relatively unchanged, which I think is cool. Okay, yeah, so figuring out what to do with those. Like, this is a pretty powerful little dude, but it is not super cheap. I kind of want to get some of these Udo machines. Definitely much more interested in little x86 machines, though. Specifically because Unity can't run on... It'll run on Linux, but it won't run on ARM, so you can't like make a lightweight Unity build for like a Raspberry Pi or whatever. But with these, even if they were running Linux... I think they have a couple models that are like the bolts are the ones that have the nice GPUs, but those start to get expensive. These little guys aren't too crazy. They're just like they have Pentiums in them, which is a funny word to see in this era. I just gotta get back into making cool stuff, you know? It's time. It's overdue. So. It's also there's a lot of like screen-based content for this to produce, which is also pretty daunting. Like the hardware is mostly off-the-shelf stuff, and it's just an issue of making all that stuff talk together, which may be a challenge because it's all pretty computationally intense stuff. But if the leap motions are primarily CPU bound and the rendering is primarily GPU bound, then maybe that's not too terrible. There'll be some element of projection mapping, but yeah. So, I guess that starts to get to some of the bigger questions or what the next steps are. And I think it will be hard to like really nail down a look until we get that looking glass display. And decide how to deal with it. Both in terms of like performance and visual fidelity. But it would probably behoove us to start thinking like, how do you interact with these things? Like, how does it work to make these things? And how much agency do you have? Do you get to pick colors and stuff? I don't know. I'm torn on that, on like how much agency to give you. Because it could be that you're just wiggling your fingers and you're moving and there's something about your movements that inform some sort of parametric generative system. And you just end up with the outcome. You just get what you get. Or do you have more choice over what the thing is? Wait, Life is Yours. Is this the one you wanted? All the circles on the surface? No, not this one. Okay, never mind. Forget it. Nobody likes this one. So maybe what we do today... I've already been going for an hour and 20 minutes. Good grief. And I just sit here and talk for so much. Points out from the center. This one? Not this one? Well, heck. I don't know. I was just clicking stuff. We may never find it. Okay. Turn off Teams for a minute. So I kind of want to do another, or at least start on another study. Let's try some other. This one was pretty cool. It's like swirling. That looks all texture. What I would like to start doing is getting into the VFX graph. Like those look like actual splines. So doing this in real time, I don't know about. It's cool though. But that's kind of cool. Good grief. Get away, notifications. Oh, there's this dog in a nice shirt. It's gone. It's gone forever. Not now. Not now, Pinterest. Can you just stop alerting me? Do not disturb. Sometimes I get so distracted by that. It's just like, drives me crazy. It's not anybody's fault for sending me messages, but it's just 4 messages in a row. I don't need to know 4 times. I wish my phone was smart enough to be like, okay, someone's sending you a bunch of messages. I'm just going to alert you one time and not alert you every single time someone sends you a message. Doesn't seem like so much to ask, right? I get it. That's hard. Like, you're giving the phone agency over what's important to show you or not, but it drives me all crazy. Like some stuff like this starts to look really achievable with just the VFX graph. Well, let's just play with the VFX graph for a little while. How about that? Oh, show me something cool. Weave silk. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I did think somewhat about something that was like a finger-based drawing thing, but I feel like that's not as... to move your body. I mean, I guess we could do something like this where as you move your fingers, there's stardust coming off of it and it forms together into a thing. This is probably all just like sticking onto a buffer because this is really just like a tube or some piece of geometry, I would guess, that is... or a bunch of lines. I don't know exactly how. Some just noisy... Yeah, it's a little hard to tell. Quit it, come back. Just want to see one. Show me a line. It's like old school screensavers that were like this. And then the thing that starts to make it look like weaving or waves or whatever is just additive particles sitting on top of each other. I don't know if these are particles or additive lines exactly. But they're probably being just like accumulating to a buffer. So they're not, I would guess that they're not remaining live. Okay, looks like they keep one stroke at a time. Very pretty. I love symmetrical drawing tools. I started one 1,000,000 times ago. And animate them. Well, that's a problem with this approach, is that you can't really easily animate this because it is, I mean, you could do something like this that wasn't static, but I think this is just accumulating in a buffer. So this is just as soon as something settles, it's like in a static image essentially. But it's quite nice. Can you turn on a symmetry mode? So what do we want to do? We want to maybe just start playing with, just do something, anything in the VFX graph. Barely use it. I was getting frustrated with it because I was finding it pretty limiting in terms of like that if you wanted to just send your own collection of data to the GPU in real time was not as straightforward as I had hoped. You could do these like baked. I just opened the wrong thing. That was the wrong thing. Don't look at that. That was a secret. I don't think there was anything very secretive on it. So I forgot what I was saying. I don't know why Unity, like over on this screen, on my off-camera screen, shows that it's opening there, and I see the splash screen there, but then it opens the window on the on-camera screen. In fact, let's just switch here for a minute. I need to just get into the habit of like not opening anything while streaming the screen. It's not top secret, but it's like secret-ish. I mean, it's only one part of the project, but still. So, so this is that thing we did last time, and this was just our little sphere study. I still like it. It's not too bad. So, turbulent sphere. Now we want to do a particle sphere or something. I can feel myself resisting this, like getting started, because there's like, I don't know, just something just uncomfortable about moving into actually making the thing. It's so much more comfortable when it's just in your brain and you can just imagine it, but once you start to actually make something, it gets real. It starts to manifest itself, and you see all the problems and all the flaws and on and on. So I have not done actually that much stuff with we did a bit on screen with the VFX graph, on stream with the VFX graph. Let's install that. I'm actually going to get a drink of water while that installs. I'll be back in just a moment. Excuse me, please. Hi, it's me. I'm back. It's me. Okay, so we what are we even doing? We're just gonna like play around with the sphere and the VFX graph. That's what I think. So we want. Let's see if I can even remember how to do anything at all, because I don't know if I can. All right, we got particles. The VFX graph has chosen to open over here. Interesting choice. So it may be a fool's errand to just try to do this myself. I mean, rather than just, where's the output of this? I thought there was like a, I'm wrong. We may, so I was just about to say, we may be actually do much better if we just install the examples. Because I don't know, I don't feel like I know it well enough to, yeah, these. To just start from scratch. I know in general what I want to do. I want to just get a sphere in there, put some points on that sphere, connect them in some way. Maybe. I feel like we tried that last time and did not really get what we wanted. Like the drawing between nodes on a sphere, some of that stuff just didn't work super well. I can't remember exactly why. It's just like we I just wasn't quite getting what I wanted in terms of my ability to control. I thought there were scenes, but I guess not. I guess there's just these. What? You broken? Oh, is this what I want? Why are you broken? Great. Cool bonfire. I thought these ran without needing anything. I could just do it. Is that not true? Oh. Okay, we might need to do. We might need to do a few things here. I forgot. Weren't we messing with the? Yes, we were. What? I don't even. What were we even doing? Oh, goodbye, Unity. See you later. Hope to see you again soon. Welcome back. And we wanted to just like well, okay, but I just turn it off. Can I just disable? Just don't want any XR right now. Thanks. All right, how do these work? Sure, I used these examples before and they just worked. So what is my problem? There's no scenes in here. What could be broken? So we did change our DirectX, our Windows. We are DirectX 11. Well, great. I'm doing very well here. Broken. Looks like there's a missing game object on something. Cool. Were we back to yesterday where every single thing is broken? There wasn't any documentation in there, right? When we imported that package. I got lost. Oh yeah, wait, there is a way that's like a, right. We can do, create a visual effect. That's not what we want to do. There's like built-in, why is this one's not even running either? I feel like this worked better before I imported the samples. Is that wrong? Am I wrong about that? Okay, well, whatever. We kind of have a thing. So actually, I think we can go in here. And I think there is a like preset template thing we can do that I forgot about. Maybe I'm wrong. So like this is what we already have. We have a spawn, etc., etc., etc. But I really thought there was a system. We want a system that is gonna swarm, simple ribbon. Yeah, okay. So there's like preset systems in here. Good. Like here's a ribbony one. That's just sort of a trail renderer kind of ribbon. Can you please not be right on top of the other thing? Can I not move this whole? Hello? Can I? Okay. When they first announced the visual effects graph, I didn't quite understand what it was, and I didn't quite appreciate what it was. But what it really is a tool for doing like complex compute shader stuff to do GPU accelerated things. And I get why they called it visual effects system, I guess, to like make it a little more understandable, but it's really like a GPU accelerated particle system. It's even more than that, but it's kind of that. What are we doing here? We're just drawing a sphere. So the thing I want to do, and I just can't remember what system we start with, is like just take a Unity sphere, build a whatever they call their little point cache thing. mesh output. Just outputs one. I thought there was a system that we liked to start with for some of the stuff we were doing last time. It's been some months. Sorry about that. Okay, because one thing, for example, was like, I'll just bumble my way through this, I guess. We want this thing, point cache bake tool. And we want to take maybe a sphere or something that's already in Unity. Well, let's just take a sphere. And we just want to make a pcache file. And these point cache files are cool, and to me they're the most powerful thing, because then you can just have a bunch of particles and sort of describe data about them, like put a bunch of context in to describe whatever you want, like what color this should be, whatever, you can put all that stuff in here. It's kind of limiting though, the way Unity lets you access that stuff, and that's one of the things I actually think I don't like about it. So we want a point cache. So if we look at that, it's going to expose the things in the point cache. So like there's how many there are, and there's attribute maps, which are the position and the normal for each point. So each point we know its normal, and each point we know its position. So I just can't remember like how we actually hooked this into anything though. I really thought there was one of these nodes that told us what to do. Okay, that kind of started on a sphere, right? That seemed like it started on a sphere. It's so pretty. Look at that swarm go. Because we essentially want to loop through a point cache. And I thought there was an example for that, but there seems to not be, which is annoying. And it might be a spawner. So if I want to spawn like a single burst spawn, and then the count would be how many I want to spawn. And then, all right, come back here, system. It talks about, oh, what's the simple system? How do you work? You spawn and then you initialize a particle. So is this sample a multiple position map? Is this right? That's an attribute map. I think that's not what we want though. I think we want, or sample. Maybe that is right. I don't think it is. That's not what our output should be. Good grief. Okay, how do you do this? Just tell me how. I got a good start on this, and then now I've just kind of fully lost it. don't think I was this... Yeah, I think we looked at the map. Maybe this is the package we had. Are these samples different than the ones that are in that? I guess they are, because that mask and everything was not in the thing we just downloaded, I don't think. Was it? Am I just fully missing something here? I don't know why these don't work. Probably because I'm doing something wrong. Great. Thanks, Angry Unicorn. So the magic book sample. So, okay. I love magic books. Just as excited as you are to see this magic book. Okay, maybe this magic book will put that. Those are the samples that we were basing our stuff on before. Because otherwise, I just can't quite remember how we. How we sample these positions from our point cache. I just can't remember. And it is not the most intuitive thing in the world. Oh my gosh, we got stuff exploding everywhere. It's just out of control. Actually, I want that one, not this one. We do a quad, and then we set some velocity random. What we need is a initialize particle context. Like, if we know, I wonder what this count is. Is this too many? It's too big. Maybe I can't set that. Oh, okay. Set position. Yeah, position from map. Maybe this is how you do it. But that wants the map here. And not. So maybe I just want set position. And I want to set it like this. No. Maybe it was right before. So from an attribute map, set from an attribute map. Oh, the map is the position. I see. Yeah. And it's index relative, I think. It's just the index. How do I increase that, though? That's what I just don't remember. We're just going to have to see it, because I just don't know. Those of you that are still watching, you're very tolerant of me when I forget what I'm doing. Appreciate that. Thank you for your patience. Wait, did I accidentally close the window that was downloading the thing that I was trying to download? Cool. That would be cool. Seems like a thing I would do. I think I sure did. Are you downloading? Are you actually downloading? Yes. Okay, so yeah, it's like we have this map of all the positions of the vertices of the sphere, and then we want to loop through those and we want to put a particle in all of them. And for some reason, they just don't include an example for that, which seems pretty silly because it seems like a pretty basic, fundamental thing that you'd want to do with attribute maps. None of these examples seem to have attribute maps. Maybe they do. So we didn't actually look at them because they didn't work. Those are subgraphs. Not initializes update particle. No, initialize a particle. Because these aren't using attribute maps, so they're not tremendously useful here. I just don't remember how to get that index. You know? Because all the other stuff, I mean, we'd be pretty close with just this goofball thing. This guy, this guy. We'd basically just want to output a particle quad. Kinda. It's just that we need to know our index, right? Well, presumably we want to update particle. Oh, did you see it? I saw it. I saw all of the particles happen in one place. Is that a size over life and had a color over life? You see it there? It's just there. Okay, so we just have that particle when really we probably have a bunch of them because I don't know how to set the index. Like as I loop through these, how do I know? Is this my spawn index? Is that how I do it? Hey! I did it. Okay. Oh, great. So... yeah, because one of the things I feel like I just can't remember what I didn't like about this. But I think it was something like... it was difficult to say, oh, I just want to sample this from a map. I want to feel like it. You do it here. But if I want to multiply this, I mean, I guess I could just scale it by 10 here. Okay, I got a big old thing there. So I also want more spheres, more particles. It's not enough. Like, I want, like, a lot. I don't know how many there are. Because I want to mess with all of them. Any cooler particles in here? All those weird little explosions. This one was a nice particly particle. Anybody? Got some lens dirt. It's always good. Let's do the default particle. Okay, so we could do this and then like update. You know, we could do like a sine wave times the normal or something. But how do I get that? Can I set the normal from map, I guess? What can I actually do from a map and set? I'm gonna set the velocity. Well, that's like actually gonna be, yeah. I mean, this will just make them explode outwards. If I do this, I still let their velocity per the normal. I don't want velocity though. I want them to like pulsate. And multiply the position random per component. Can I get the what if this modifies like the actual position though? So like if I do get attribute and get the current position and multiply, whoa, do you see that? Well, that's me multiplying the position times 0. So I'd want to get the position, and I'd want to add. I don't want a sticky note. I want to add some. I want to add the normal, but like, where do I put that? I mean, in this case, it's a sphere, so the position and the normal are kind of the same. So I could actually just like normalize this, normalize the position, and then add the normalized version. So I don't want to multiply the position though. I want to like do something to it. What can I actually do to the position? I can add a position. So if I get like a sine wave in here, wait, what was that other one? If I'm just always adding, I think I just want to set the position, right? Like, I just don't know if I'm actually permanently changing the position when I do this stuff. If I just set position, I just set position equal to position, you would think I would have the position, but it appears that it's not the case. Or I'm like setting it to 0 or something. So if I'm getting the current position of the thing, you would think that would be right, right? That's to set the position. I don't know, man. What I don't know is if I'm like permanently changing the position when I do this. You know what I mean? Like if I just did this, you'd kind of expect, yeah, but it seems like it does add it, like it's additive. So I don't want to do that. So then I want to say, no, I just want to set the position. I guess I could multiply the position, but is that like the original position? That's what I'm confused about here. Like, what am I actually changing? Am I changing? Let's try some of these other systems. There's our swarm. So what do we really do here? We're not doing anything. We're just like turbulence or messing with this stuff. So they have a random lifetime. They have just a position on a sphere. And they have they get output. So that's like sparkle texture. Cool. So that's that one. Then in this guy, we have like simple particle system. It doesn't have any update. These just have, they get a random velocity when they're born and then they go in that direction. So that's not very exciting either. And this one is pretty. Okay, but I feel like none of those are very useful to us. So let's, did our thing actually download? Hooray! Oh, that was weird. Oh, wait. This is like a standalone application. That's not what I want. This is useless. I downloaded 100% the wrong thing. This is just like a Unity program that has all the samples compiled. Well, great. These are good samples. But not what I wanted. I did want to, so we want to look at this. How did this work? Morphing face, I think, is the example we actually care about. How do I go to the next thing? I feel like I hit a button and then it went. Return. Flutterbys. I like those flutterbys. I like that kind of volumetric lighty effect. Look at this grass and this wind, incredible. Controls, maybe not the best controls. Excellent haircut though. That's very good. It's very pretty. Very, very pretty indeed. Look at this beautiful hula hoop. Cool. I really like this one. This one's cool. Genie in the bottle. Do I have to rub the lamp? I rubbed it. A genie with flaming eyes. I really like this one too. This one's cool. Well done. Well done, well done, well done. My buddy Ellen. Oh, my computer's had those fans kicked on. Nice bonfire. Beautiful. Beautiful little scene. Spaghetti. Let's show the frame rate. Oh, there's the magic book. We show stats. Psst, counter. Maybe they have VSync on. I think this monitor's 60 hertz. Wait, don't turn it off now. Okay, well, excellent. Great, except that's not what we wanted at all. I downloaded the wrong thing. So we want not a build. I guess we just want the source code. That's funny. Silly mistake. It's the showcase. Yeah, the visual effects repository has all of those examples, which is for some reason different than the ones you can download alongside the package, which packages that don't seem to work for me for whatever reason. And then so I downloaded it, but I've downloaded the compiled executable, not the scene files, which is all I want because I want to see how that works. because I'm confused about the like per particle update and how to do it in like a non-destructive way. Like if I want to mess with my position, but keep my original position, you know, to like make things wobble with a sine wave or whatever, I need to know the original position. Unless that can be target position. Like, can I set a target position and make my target position equal to the original position? And not do any of this other stuff? Isn't that weird? I'm certainly doing something wrong. That's clear. But if I just don't update the particles, didn't we have this working a minute ago? And we had like a bunch of particles in space. What did I break? Oh, the index. I broke the index. That's why everything's broken. Spawn index, right? That's what we want to know. We want to know the spawn index. Okay, that's fixed. Great. So now, well, then maybe I was actually on the right track. But we wanted to add. What is my problem? Update particle, hit space. I want to add a position, but like if I just do this every frame, we just explode, right? Like I can't do that, but can I set my target position? If I set my target position to something, does it actually care? Like is target position something that is used, or is target position just like a storage thing? Because what it may need to be, even though this is silly, would be like set my target position. Oops. Set the target position from the map. I think maybe this is how it works. So we'd set the target position from the map. That's our map. We want to go by index. Okay. And then in here, we will set position. We'll set our position. Actually, we could probably do a set position. Yeah, that's another way we could do this. Okay, so here's one way to do this. Is get rid of all this stuff because it's all wrong. Okay, get a target position for whatever, like the current iteration. Okay, we're good. So we have this. We have a target position. We're always setting it. We're never changing our target position. So now we can multiply this and use that. And so if we multiply this, we can do that. That's great. So now we would do the sine wave here. But I want the sine. I'm going to multiply it by time. I thought there was something called the sine wave, though. Does this already do the thing? I guess either way I need time, right? So I can just do like time per particle time. Feed that to the sine wave and multiply with that, and then we should get a pulsy thing. Great. Just great. Okay, but we have no randomness here, which is not great, obviously. So we'd want some like random offset. So one way to do something like that is just to add something from your position data. Oh yeah, how about that? I don't know what it's actually using. We need to split our channel. Split. How do I get individual? Oh wait, maybe I already can. Out here, yeah. So we want maybe just like the X. Looks like it maybe is already set to X. I don't know how I set the C. Okay. So now we have this weird thing where it's like a sine wave that's offset by... Here's the thing. I want to just make up my own random attributes, though. I want to make an attribute, and I want to put random data in it, and I want to name it. And that's what annoys me about this, because as near as I can tell, these are the attributes that I have to work with. So, like, this is what I can work with. But if I want to mess with stuff, which I do, then it gets a little more complicated. Like, where, if I wanted a per particle random offset, one way to do that is just like multiply XYZ or something. So this is just a front view of that same animation, which is pretty cool. It's all right. I could also do like a rotation, or do this and apply a rotation with an axis. It's not working? Oh, the angle. So we would actually want to rotate around Z in this case, probably. Okay, so we'd want to like time. And what if we added a little turbulence in here? The frequency way too high or way too low? Can I do that before this? Why does this look so insane? Well, let's for the moment just not even do this. And okay, I think we do, okay, yeah, there's various ways to do these, but this, we probably do want to set position here, just so we're actually setting, not old position. That's one way to do it. You can set your old position every frame, but, or like make your old position. I just don't like that I'm limited to these though. Just doesn't feel great. Okay, so if we do this and we get this by index, and we're saying with the spawn index, and we want the attribute map position, blah. So, but I kind of don't, I kind of just want to like, I want to use turbulence, but programmatic access, well, that's kind of the, sort of the nice thing about the VFX graph is you're not programming, because otherwise doing this stuff, you can do it, it's just a little annoying. Like you either have to write compute shaders or you have to pack a bunch of data into textures. So, if you mean like actually coding, then yes, but there might be like a custom node where you can write some code to do it. As far as like saying what happens, if you mean just in terms of like, you know, dictating very specifically what happens, Kind of no, but in this context, you sort of don't want that. Like this is just like, oh, you have all these particles and you're going to apply some turbulence to them. And that's what you're going to do. And that's your goal for this. But I do want to say, I want to add like, I guess it's a range of randomness. Like, so like if I was doing this stuff, I've done stuff like this before. If you want like GPU accelerated something, you might pack a bunch of data either into the mesh itself. Like when I built the mesh, I might give random offsets for everything and velocities and whatever will be part of the mesh, just hidden in additional vertex, like in UV5 or some other channels of the mesh. Or you send a texture to the GPU just like you're going to draw it, but instead of drawing it in your shader, you use the data in the texture for like, you know, you say RGB is actually XYZ velocity or something like that. So that's the way traditionally I've done this stuff. I've done a very tiny amount with compute shaders, which is like, instead of cramming it inside of the mesh or cramming it inside of the texture, you have these buffers that you can store things in, but it's kind of the same idea. It's like you've got data and you're sticking it somewhere. And if you want to update that data every frame, you can do it in a texture, you can do it in a buffer, in a compute shader. The VFX graph, its like main selling point is that it kind of does that stuff for you. So position random per component. Curve. But does this mean like random between two values? I'm confused about that. Don't do that. But this permanently changes the scale. And this is what I'm kind of confused about. Is like, do I need to set the scale? Well, that's pretty cool. Not what I meant to do, but it's pretty cool. That's just a bunch of spheres being scaled kind of randomly, non-uniformly. Up and down. There's some spirits there, some secret spirits. Definitely not what I meant to do, but here we are. So we can make this additive maybe? Oh, that's too much, huh? I just want less. Oh, is there a separate opacity? Why? I guess there's just a lot of these, because even with almost no... Okay, well, anyway, this is definitely not what we want to do. Like, I want to have whatever my core value is, whatever it is, of like my position, and I want to offset it by some amount. I guess I could get the set position from map every frame, and like that would be the source of truth, basically. Is I would say. Inside here, every frame. So every frame, we start with whatever our original position is. That's just what I'm not good at yet. I mean, I barely know how to use this at all. But in particular, the thing I'm not good at is knowing Why didn't that work? Kind of the right way to like the way to put these pieces together, the way this wants to work. Because I would have different opinions about this. I would have different opinions of like, well, I want to just put data in whatever thing I want, and then I want to do whatever I want with that data. And I could do that with my own buffers. But I feel like if I can like bend my thinking to work the way that this thing wants me to, I will succeed. This seems to not work. Like updating, doing this here. If I do it here, it works. Like if I set the position in here, and I say that I want it index, and I say that this is the index, and I don't do this update, then it works. I guess I could cram it in old position. Maybe that's the thing to do. It's just like you're given a limited number of containers basically. And I just don't like that. I mean, I don't like that Unity saying like, well, you've got old position and target position, and no matter what you want to do, you've got to cram it in those. So if I did like here, set position, because some of those are used and some aren't. Like I can't just decide like, okay, then that's fine. I'm going to put whatever I want in velocity, but that you can't, because in terms of velocity, Unity's going to actually use that to do something. All right, so I said that I wanted to take whatever was in old position, well, I really thought that was going to work. Unless maybe old position I actually can't. Maybe old position is not one of the ones I can use. Maybe it has to be, some are used and some aren't. And maybe target position is one of them. I need to find somewhere that just lists all those and says what I can actually do. Because if I do set target position, which we've done before, and it seemed okay, right? Like I'm going to set target position from the map. And I'm going to say that's my attribute map. And I'm going to say I want the index of wherever I am based on when I was spawned. And I'm going to get that. And I'm going to say 5, 5, 5. And I'm not going to do this. And I want... And now every frame I do want to set position. And I want to put whatever is in my target position, which is really my origin. Like, I would like to know my origin. That's my origin. Yeah, and then I can do the... But like, if I just want a random number in something... Okay, so we need to just find the documentation and figure out what we can actually use here. Oh, where's the documentation? Those are the samples. Ooh, the documentation. I would like to just stick whatever I want in a buffer and say like, hey, I want to know whatever I want to know. Whatever I want to know. Okay. A storage helper if you want backup current position. Okay, so it is... Yeah, I want more than this. I want like sophisticated data per particle. Whatever I want. And I want to be able to take a map. I still want to be able to use a map for it. I want to say there is actually a like a setting somewhere, like a preference for visual effects that lets you do show additional experimental blocks. Yeah, a get custom attribute. So I can get something from a custom attribute. But still a little confused. Like, can I have more than one custom attribute? Like, I can set a custom attribute. I can't set a custom attribute from a map, which is like what I want to do. I think there is some way to do. Yeah, okay, custom attribute. Like I could say this is whatever, random offset. And it's a float. And then you can be a random offset. But I still want to set this from a map. I don't in this, I can actually do without it in this case, but like, still kind of lame. So a random number between 0 and 1, and we'll just stick it in here. And then if we do a set position, we set it from the target position, and then we want to add. I mean, it's super duper possible, if not like totally probable, that I'm just kind of using this wrong. But I want to multiply this times the normal vector, which there isn't a place to stick a normal. So either I could normalize the target this, and then multiply the normal vector times our random number. Okay, and we finally get what we want here. So now we need, that's our random offset. And now we want to use a sine wave, like multiply this times a sine wave, and then use time on that. It's just like, this doesn't feel great. Why do I keep doing that? Plugging it into the, oh no, come back. Like this feels like a lot of work to just get pulsing particles. It feels like it should not be, or like a lot of mental leaps of like, oh, I got to store this in this target position so that I can know the original position. The not being able to store, now I'm starting to remember, not being able to set custom attributes from a map is the thing that made me think this sucks. Because if I could make custom attributes and I could set them from a map and I could do whatever I wanted, then I would be golden. But seems to not be the case. I don't know what that means. That's kind of interesting, but we also sort of want to offset time by that same value. Maybe? And then feed that into here. And then make it way faster. Now let's not make a sticky note. Whoa, that's a bit much. Still not exactly what I want though, because they seem very uniform somehow. Big number. Z would do that front to back thing, which kind of looks more like what I want, but doesn't look like what I want when you look at it from the side. It's a trick. I do think I want to steal whatever was in you. Just steal this particle and use it instead. We're still just opening a quad, but just... Uh-oh. What did I do wrong? What happened? Why does that work there and not there? Why? That's very strange. Oh, it's probably because there's color of a lifetime stuff, and we don't have that. Okay, so we will just steal sparkle, sparkle. I can't for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, well, we got this thing. What do we think about that? I don't think we want random per component. Wow. Set size random. Uniform. It is kind of. So Unity's been, as they've been like rewriting every part of Unity, they have been moving more and more things into packages. So in recent versions, you would just have to go into the package manager here and add the visual effects graph. It is cool. It's just like, it's pretty limiting. Like doing this stuff is really annoying doing it yourself. So like, it's nice to have these shortcuts to it. It's just, I'm finding myself pretty frustrated with the way they implemented things. Like if I could just, back to that example of just, if I could do custom attributes and do whatever I want in those attributes, then, and set them from maps, meaning I could like generate something, write some software to generate some points. This is nightmarish. Whoa. But I can't do that. I don't know why would they add the custom attribute stuff and not? So this is, I mean, this is doing some nice things for me. It's saying like, okay, you got this sphere, we're going to take 4,000, we're going to make 4,000 quads, 4,000 pieces of geometry. We're going to position in space, do all that for you. Like it's handy for sure. Like I'm grateful for this, but there's just some parts about it that maybe it's just me. And it's like, I just don't quite have my mind wrapped around the way it wants me to do things yet. Like maybe this thing I have on screen right now, there's a way more straightforward way to do it. Maybe. Whoa. I'm just picking random sprites that happen to be in this project already. I like this silly circle. And so this is, and of course there's other ways to do this. Like I'm trying to do an underlying mesh, which I kind of got distracted from. That was the thing we were actually trying to do. Because that'd be a whole another thing to like, yeah, it's just tricky. It's just a little annoying. Like I could build the point cache for the kinds of things that I want to accomplish. But then if I can't use those attributes per map, like, and the way these samples work, like, can I just do this? I can do this, but then I have to figure out the UV coordinates to get the number, which is annoying. Like why can't I sample? I don't know, man. It just feels like some of the stuff is not quite thought out for things that people would want to do that aren't too crazy. Like have a mesh and make some sort of like interesting interconnected wireframey thing on the mesh. Learning curve. Well, I mean, I know how to do this stuff at the... Like I could write a shader that would do this. It'd be a little annoying to get it all set up and get the geometry the way I wanted it, but like where I could pack into a texture, I'd essentially send a bunch of geometry, manufacture a bunch of geometry of a bunch of quads, send it to the GPU, and then send textures to the GPU to position those to accomplish this thing. And like, I don't know, that'd be finicky, but I think I could have done that faster than this. But this has all the nice stuff to tune it. It's just, that's a funny, it's a kind of a lot of things. It's similar with the shader graph also, where it's like, there's stuff in the shader graph that it's like, okay, the shader graph's really convenient and quick to use in many cases, but sometimes I just want to do some math. And then suddenly it's like this, where it's like, okay, I just want to do a little bit of math. And suddenly it takes 6 nodes to do what would be just a few characters, which is probably fine. Like it's probably not really a cost to that, but it's just, it's more of a shift of the way your mind works, because I have ways that I would do this. And I guess the summary is that the tools that they give are not in line with the way that I would just intuitively choose to do it. Which is okay. Like it's not like my way is the perfect way, but there's things that I think could be really powerful. So the way that works is like these point caches. Right now, I use that little tool that they made, and I made a file here, this point cache file. And if we looked at this file, if Windows would actually let you drag programs onto other programs, it's just going to be a list of attributes for every single point. So like up here says what these attributes are: position XYZ, normal XYZ, and then that's position XYZ, normal XYZ, and that's kind of it. and then you just have a whole bunch of points. There's 4096 of them, so I guessed, but that was actually correct. So for 4096 points, there's baked data. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's in this specific case, there is a learning curve to it, but I feel like it's less a learning curve of learning like, what do I want to accomplish? It's like in the framework of the tools that they give me, like what is the way to do it? I don't think I'm explaining that very much. Yeah, you could be way more low level than this. You could just be writing compute shaders and be way more low level. But that stuff gets to be a hassle, especially if you want to be really flexible at what you want to do. And I would maybe like want all kinds of different visualization possibilities, you know. So I still don't know what we're making, by the way. You know, our references of all these beautiful, like ethereal orbs and stuff, maybe we'll make like weird little monsters or something. Maybe that'll be more fun. Maybe it'll be more fun to make weird creatures instead of space orbs. I don't know. But I guess my purpose here was just try to wrap my head around this a little bit, but I'm being reminded of some of the limitations that I found irritating. So going back to that file, we have a list of the position and the normal for all of those, and that's great. So now it's like, awesome, I have these attributes that I can access. But the containers that Unity gives me to put those attributes in are very limited. So when it comes to setting something from the map, I only have these options. And many of these have very specific meanings in Unity, so I can't just use them to set, you know, whatever arbitrary thing I want. Like target position is maybe almost the only one of these that I can stick whatever data I want in. By turning on that special setting, we made it where I can cram data into custom attributes, which is this. Like I made this custom attribute called random offset, and that's cool, and I'm into it, but there doesn't seem to be a way to set those with in the same way that you can do this, where you put a whole attribute map inside that, where I have that whole long list of things that I can always reference. I just don't know how to do that. There may just not be a way to do that. There is kind of a way, but it's annoying, and it's kind of shockingly dumb, where you have to get a normalized 0 to 1 value, and you have to know the dimensions because these are all stored in textures, and on and on. Like it's pretty annoying. Like you could do it with a sample texture 2D probably, because that's really all the attribute maps are. But I just want to set my custom thing from a map, and I can't seem to do it. Sad story. Okay, are we actually going to do something with this today? I mean, it's kind of pretty. I could rotate it again. It's only better from the front. I mean, it's kind of cool from the side. Now that I said it's better from the front, it's kind of cool from the side. But I think we would want to do it around the Z-axis. Especially if these could operate in world, would that be better? If we just like connected our time to here. It's almost pretty. What's our frame rate? 1,800 frames per second. So we could feel like we could safely run this on a looking glass. But so that's a problem, actually. Another thing to really think about is before we even go this route of this hyper particle focused stuff, which I love and which is beautiful, this just may not look good on those looking glasses. We may want like a very different kind of approach to what we're doing. And maybe it's creatures. Maybe they're weird little organisms. Because I think that would look okay on those displays. Have more size randomness, is that better? How is this on the video? Nothing like really testing your bit rate by like smushing in a million particles on screen. That's too big. I could also duplicate it. Wow, that's a lot of particles. Yeah, nice potato quality. Yeah, 6 megabit. We're really at like we're about 5 megabit. It's really not ideal for intense particle systems. I do kind of just want to keep duplicating this over and over and over again, though. One more. Oh, yeah. What's our frame rate? Still way up there. Nice 2070 in this machine. We don't want to like our... Okay, we want to constrain this a little more. Like, what are we actually doing? We did like this... Yeah, a little more constrained here. Maybe that's better. What does one of these look like? Now I could probably get a little bigger then. Just a little. The playlist is really, well, a couple things. One, I would like this thing to have some audio component. So the playlist, just like when we put together the visual board, like the mood board, to just start like getting visuals in front of our eyes, I think the playlist is about getting sounds in our ears. And I wouldn't actually use any of those songs, but we might do some generative music. Like maybe if we do the creatures or organisms, they will, I'm starting to lean towards these creatures and organisms. I must admit. I'm starting to chug a little bit. It's not. There might be some generative audio musical thing that they do together, I guess, is the idea. I want to know if I did what? If I created one of these trail systems and then I hooked my dude, update particle, trigger an event. And I told my dudes to trigger this event. Whoa. Got little sparklies everywhere. Well, now we almost have that. We're almost getting silky here. This is like enough trails. Strip capacity 32, particle strip count. Oh, I need more of those. I think this is gonna. Let's just try to break the computer. Something's wrong though. Why is this not? Why do I have so few? Play some sick dubstep? No. It would be more like probably like weird ambient drums and plucks and hums and strange things happening while our little creatures did their thing. But I don't know. I don't know. All this stuff is very evolving from moment to moment at this point, and will probably continue to for the next few weeks at least. I don't understand why we have so few friends. Oh. Is it something about this rate? I don't really know how the like chaining works here to fire this other stuff, so I'm just gonna not do it. I think they want to be like white hot in the middle. No, they don't. They want to be something else. It was better before I touched it. Story of my life. I don't know, it was just kind of cool when we did this. Actually, though, we're feeding this to a sine wave. We don't need to go negative here, right? The sine is going to take care of the negative for us. It's kind of cool. Well, that did the thing where you look at it for a while and you see the radial thing and then you look away and then there's weird radial distortion on whatever you look at. That's too big. Okay. This looks kind of like a thing. So let's do this. Let's just... let's go steal our visual effects stack from our other scene. Where was that? That was in the turbulence sphere. Let's just steal from ourselves. Nope, we want post-processing, and we want to go back to particle sphere. And just do that. And then what do we need to actually do to make this work? We have to turn on rendering, post-processing. Whoa, yeah, look at that. It's maybe a bit much. Is it a bit much? Kind of like it though. What do we think? Is this too much? I'm sure the stream is not handling this well. It would be better with the actual particle image again. And then a little bit bigger. It's the miracle of throwing a little bloom on stuff. I don't know. I think I liked that weird just circle thing. It's like a Unity UI element. Whoa. What that? What's our frame rate? Still 1,000 frames per second. Not too bad. Oh man, if Bjork would approve of it. Oh, be still my heart. Anything to win Bjork's favor. Okay, what does it look like without all our duplicates? Probably pretty boring. So boring. Wait, post-processing. It's okay. But really the thing that makes this interesting is just like the 4 copies of it. Definitely weird to look at for a while and then look at something else, for sure. Okay, I think are we done with this? Do we call this done? I mean, just as far as a study. I think we did a study today. Did we? Do we not actually want the cools in here? Is it better if these are all kind of like in the worms? Maybe. No, better or worse? I don't know. And is this the background we like? It is. I think it kind of wants to be on red for some reason. Is it too slow? Should it spin even faster? Be even more dizzying? Ooh, I thought it froze for a second. What if we multiplied time? here by 2. That's probably too much, right? Okay, Ivar, thank you for hanging out. I am gonna just... I think we're just gonna call this done. We made a thing. We've been streaming for 3 hours. Have a lovely night. I'm gonna just render this, throw some music on it, and post it on Instagram, I think. We haven't actually hit play yet. It's all just preview. Just realized that. Whoa, is it growing bigger over time? What just happened there? Okay, so let's save this. And let's do our window, what? What's the thing called? Don't we have the recording thing in here? Why is it under? Why is it here? Why would you put it there? Okay, this is gonna be take 2. Take 2. So we're just gonna record 30 or whatever we did to before. 60 seconds of this. Was it not there frame 0? Because that'd be kind of lame if frame 0 was just blank. Yeah, frame 0 is blank. Okay, we might have to be 1 frame short. In fact, I think we're 1 frame over because we're started 0 anyway. So last time I had to like crop it by 1 frame anyway. So I think we're okay. We want a really good swirly one to be our hero image. That one's boring. I don't know, they look kind of boring. The stills look boring. They're not good stills. What are we even doing here? Oh well, I'm not going to be too precious. I'm going to let go of preciousness. Okay, we need to find some awesome free YouTube music, right? The most important part of our day. Okay, free music. This is going to be loud, probably. I'm going to turn down the desktop audio. Okay, we want a mood of, like, bright. I'm going to bright mood, genre, dance and electronic, now launch. This one's called Bad Snacks. Okay, let's just watch this. Are we feeling the bad snacks? I don't know. It's called Inevitable. It's called Maze. It's called Italy Junior. Oh, Bad Snacks is the name of the band. I think it's this. I think it's the one. Space Racer by Bad Snacks. Okay, we want to... What are we doing? Studies. I don't know what song we used last time. Space Racer. I think it was J Sweeps. Does that not work? Yeah, okay. That's what we used last time. Great. So that, and then we're gonna, like, we're done here. I don't know. Is this good? I don't know if it's good. It really might. Maybe it shouldn't be the knob. Maybe it really should be the particle. And just bigger. Like, twice as big. That was too big. Is that better? I think it might be better. Okay, I'm doing the thing I said I wasn't going to do. I'm not going to be precious. We're going to say this is better because I think the stills of this look better. I think that's true. So let's do general. Let's just record over, take 2, and go. Okay. Meanwhile, in another program, I wonder if Premiere's going to mess up my audio like it likes to do. I'm going to switch here for a minute. I don't know about this sphere. I don't know. I'm kind of like pulling back on the idea of the like really spacey ones, even though they're beautiful. But for this, like, I don't know. I don't know about like building a toolkit that will build those in an interesting way that makes you feel like you have control. And I don't know about the fidelity of those on the looking glass displays. Kind of both those things. Okay, so now we want to do some stuff. I don't want any tutorials. Can this window just go away and never come back? We want to import. Take 2. It's an image sequence. We really didn't want the first frame, but what can we do now? And this is our... How did I do this before? This is the sequence, right? Is this 29976 or something real dumb? Or did I fix that? It's 30 FPS, okay. So it was just a way to like create a sequence from a... Here, take 2. This one, let's take 1. Can I rename you? Okay. Take 2 says we want this thing in here. Nope. We want this thing in here. We want to change the sequence settings to what? I don't know. Properties? Never 2997. Is this wrong? Ugh. There's no frame rate in the file. Jokers. Really don't like that. Like, you can look at properties, but you can only look at them. Okay, you 30 FPS, 1080, 1080. That's probably all fine. Right? That's probably all fine. Okay, we do want to do something funny though, where we only want, like, we want to cut off the first frame, but only the first frame. So was that good enough? Okay, so do that. And then now we have a new song called what? It's really weird streaming without music playing. It makes me pay too much attention to my voice. Studies. And our new one is called what? Spacer Racer? I think we like this area. Or do we end it here? Oh, this goes on for a long time. Don't do that. Don't do that. That doesn't sound good. Quit going to the beginning. You're grounded and fired. I am really not pleased with this. Okay, something like this. Something like this. Let's throw default transitions on both sides. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Wait, how's that still 2 frames too long? Wait a second. That should be 1 in 1 frame. And we cut a frame off. And this should be interpreted as 30 frames per second. And this should be 30 frames per second. Do we need to like re-add this? I don't really remember all my Premiere shortcuts. That makes it like 1 minute duration. So why is that? Is this just slightly longer accidentally on the end? It is. Okay. And we're just going to call this the thing. Okay, that's fine. I still don't feel like it looks as cool as it should. So I want to just like just one more quick idea is if we take some of these background guys and deliberately offset them. Yeah, to make like a core. Man, maybe we should orbit around it. Maybe it's way cooler that way. So if we're in here and we spin around on, what if that's the axis? Is that cooler or is that too much? Or is it too slow? What else does our time go into? Because we could do this too. Oops. Oh, this. On all axes. Maybe the max isn't quite as big. I kind of want these a little less saturated, and the yellows especially. And scale shouldn't, I mean, scale, is that going to matter here? Oops. No, just. Does. So that's interesting. Because maybe we like stagger them up and we have one that's 0.5 and one that's 0.75. And one that's 1. One that's 1.25. I don't know. Is it just too much now? Was it better when it was simpler? It's so hard to tell sometimes. What if I rotate every other one 180 degrees? No, I'm having such a hard time deciding on color. Maybe it should be more like 0.25. Have a really little guy. 0.75. Like 0.25, 0.5, 1, and 2. This is just like video encoder nightmare. Kind of like the big one though. I gotta stop messing with this, get on with my life, right? Right? I need somebody, like, everybody's gone to bed. You gotta, like, need someone to monitor me, pull me back from the edge of disaster. Do we still have our little, where'd our window go? Our, let's close it. Okay. We're just not gonna mess anymore, right? Right? Let's take 2. Let's do it. Stand back. Life is yours. Tell me to stop working on this. Please tell me. Don't work on this anymore. Is this what the inside of a sun looks like? I thought it was the inside of like what Coca-Cola looks like. Like deep in the... Maybe more like Dr. Pepper because it's red. It's a pretty fast computer. I like it. You don't like it? I think it's okay. I need to move on. Like I can't get caught up in these like little studies that aren't really going anywhere. I need to just like produce things, get them out into the world, get them off my plate, and be ready to move on to the next thing. Because like, I very clumsily, but kind of got back into some understanding of the VFX graph. Was reminded about some things about it that I super don't like, but also like, I don't know. Something about this workflow plus the fidelity of like, screen representation rendering we'd have on those looking glasses. Even though I love the look of, of all that reference we found, maybe we need to go something for that's like a little more graphic, like back in some of our early reference that's a bit more about like shapes and geometry and less about a million particles. Okay, hopefully this just updates automatically. I think this looks cooler. I turned the audio way down just so I wouldn't ruin your life. This is our Coca-Cola commercial. Are you thinking me or are your neighbors? This is so loud for me that I can't even think. Okay, let's encode this. I gotta start being more careful about showing work stuff. I did that twice today. It's so quiet you can't hear it? Really? Okay, let me try this. Is that too loud or is that reasonably loud? That's a bit loud. Okay. I just gotta like, uh-oh, how do I stop it? Oh my gosh, okay. Okay, not ear damaging loud. It's funny because I try to keep all this stuff, like my voice is in the yellow, so I kind of expect my voice to be the loud thing, the ear crushing thing. Okay, we want to file, export Okay, let's really see what this computer can do, because I'm going to try to stream this and encode this video at the same time. This is probably not going to go well. Okay, we want to go to somewhere like here. This is study 002. And we want to say that this thing is going to be that's really all fine. $10 megabit. It's going to be better than the stream quality. Okay. So how... Oh, look at this computer. Just take this like a champ. Let's go to the task manager for the inside detail. Let's check out CPU usage. Okay, Premiere is pegging the CPU. OBS is pegging the GPU. I'm surprised to see that, because I kind of would have thought this encoder would use the... Maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's something I could have set. Okay, never mind. That actually did seem to kill the bit rate. Oops. Okay, and we've rendered a thing, and that... Okay, is the bit rate dead? Did I ruin everything? Files, export. Oh no, it's because of flipping Dropbox. Okay. It was Dropbox. It wasn't the encoding, it was Dropbox, because I exported to a Dropboxy place. Why is there no audio in VLC? That's a fun question I like to ask. Oh, there it is. Okay, here's the results. It's not the greatest. Even at 10 megabit, whew. It's not terrible. Definitely not as good as our source material. Maybe I should render it at a higher bit rate. I mean, if I put it on Instagram, Instagram's going to kill it anyway. What should I do? Let's see. If I did like export media and I said adaptive higher bit rate, I thought that would be better. Let's just try that. I saved it in the wrong place. Well, we can compare and contrast, I guess. I need to eat a snack and probably check my emails, because I put my phone on Do Not Disturb like 2 hours ago. And that was maybe... Well, that's a lot of alerts, but none of them seem very critical. Whew, that's a lot of emails. Okay. Did that work? Are we good? Take two. Not terrible. I don't know if it's that much better. We'd probably have to like really bump the bit rate to make a difference. That was the old one. That's the new one. It's not that much. It's not that different. But we're just gonna get on with our lives, I think. I think it's time to do that. If it's like offensively bad, we'll figure something out. Okay, thanks for joining me. That was a weird stream. So we started out talking about the project, and we got real distracted and did a really bad job. And I say we, I mean me, did a really bad job in the visual effects graph. But then I kind of remembered how it worked. But then I also remembered that I didn't like it. And here we are. So tomorrow, I don't know what we're gonna do. We gotta like figure out some kind of direction. Oh, there's also just some woman on my desktop. The wallpaper must have changed. We weren't looking. Hello, strange woman. Okay, life is yours. Thanks for hanging out. Ivar, Ivar, thanks for hanging out. One day I'll get your name pronunciation correctly. Draclin, thanks for lurking. Anybody else who stopped by, thanks so much. And I will see you tomorrow, probably, right? Bye.